Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'inu ala umuri dunya waddin wa sallallahu ala sayyidil anbiya'i wal mursalin amma ba'd. Welcome to this class, the English for Educational Studies. This subject or this course are dealing with the theory of Pesantren because in this university, the tagline is Pesantren-based university or leading Pesantren-based university. So every student in this university should understand and should comprehend the values, the traditions, and the theory of education in Pesantren. And in this opportunity, we would like to break downs of our studies, educational studies. In half semester, we would like to talk about the Pesantren theories, and the second half semester would like to tell you about the theory of modern educational theories. So in 6 meetings, we would like to understand the Pesantren theory, and in the remaining 6 meeting, would like to tell about the modern educational theories. Well, in this opportunity, in second meeting, we would like to tell you the theory of Pesantren, the background, and the something regarding about Pesantren. Then we would like to compare Pesantren's madrasa school or sekolah. Then we would like to elaborate madrasa itself, sekolah, and other related terms or names in Pesantren's terminologies. Well, in Pesantren in Indonesia is indigenous educational institution. So Pesantren is very specific for Indonesia. So Indonesia must be proud that Pesantren is the one of the traditional Islamic institution. Pesantren is look like Hauzah in Iran, or Ma'had or Rabit'ah in Saudi Arabia, or Zawla or Maktab in Egypt, and so on and so forth. This is the icon of Pesantren in Indonesia because Pesantren was claimed by Nahdlatul Ulama as the organization of Nahdlatul Ulama is the basic or is the bigger home, is the bigger house of Pesantren in Indonesia. And Nahdlatul Ulama was found by Hadratus Sheikh Kiai Haji Hasim As'ari, and the characteristic of Pesantren is very different with school. So Nahdlatul Ulama is as the bigger home or as the bigger house in Pesantren in Indonesia could be can explain the all of Pesantren itself. And the second figures is Gus Dur or Kiai Abdurrahman Wahid as the Indonesian president. He take Pesantren to the world view. He took the Pesantren for international discourse. So Pesantren start from Ndeso, start from village, and the most santri is from villages, comes to the cities, comes to the world, and Gus Dur introduced Pesantren to the world. Many writing work of Gus Dur explain the pesantren itself to be a subculture of Indonesian people. For example, Gus Dur write in Bunga Rampai Pesantren that pesantren is subcultures of Indonesian people. So pesantren is one of the Indonesian component in Indonesia, and this is the activity of pesantrens. It is very pithy, it's very simple, and this is the portrait of Santria, the portrait of integration between pesantren and modern school. Well, let's see to the next slide. We would like to compare pesantren, madrasa, and sekolah. Pesantrens was derived from santri. Santri derived from sastri or chantri. Sastri means the books of religious, or sastri means the holy books. Santri from Sanskrit language, for Sanskrit language, that Santri come from the traditions of Hinduism, because the previous religion in Indonesia is Hinduism and Buddhism. But pesantren was adopted by the founder of pesantren, popularly started by Maulana Ishaq or Sunan Giri, Sunan Bonang, Sunan Kalijaga, or we call Wali Songo. Take Santri as the icon for the Islamic traditional institution. So Santri is the object. The object becomes the other nouns, namely using prefix and using suffix. So Santri prefix by pe and pesantri, and an as the suffix. So pesantren comes pesantri and an, pesantrian. But tashgir, I and A in Indonesia, ian becoming A, pesantren, kabupatian, kabupaten, pesantrian, pesantren. So pesantrens derived from santri. Santri means student. Santri means student. Well, so the definition of pesantren is a place for student to learn Islam. Of course, to learn Islam. Yeah, to learn Islam. And in other terminologies, pesantrens is translated to be Islamic boarding school. Islamic boarding school. There are three words: Islamic, boarding, and school. Islamic, boarding, and school. Boarding school means the school that has boarding. Islamic boarding school means that school has the boarding, and the values of boarding is Islam. But in fact, factually, Islamic boarding school is not pesantren. Why? Because pesantren is very unique. Pesantren is very specific. Islamic boarding school, it could be just school, has boarding or dormitory, and the dormitory's activities is Islamic values. This is Islamic boarding school. No yellow books, no kiais, or no the traditions or the life values of pesantren's life. So Islamic boarding school is very different. But okay, it's okay. Islamic boarding school translated to be pesantren in English, but factually it is very different. And the other terminologies is primarily private, because pesantren is very private. Pesantren is open, but pesantren could not never be interrupted by other people, by government, by organization, because pesantren is very private. Well, uh, in pesantren studies, we have two kinds of pesantren in typology. We call pesantren typology. Actually, this is the basic of typology in pesantren. First, traditional. Traditional means salaf or pesantren salafiyah or traditional pesantren generally in rural areas. If of course in rural areas, in village, the most traditional pesantrens located in rural areas. And then the contents of curriculum is traditional Islamic knowledge. Traditional Islamic knowledge. And then pesantren itself becoming a boarding school, because boarding is the first component of pesantren. Boarding or pondok or funduk or dormitory is the main component of pesantren. No pesantren without boarding. So boarding school is very, very important. The position of boarding school for taking rest, for taking bed, for sleeping, for reviewing the material, for interaction among the student. And full time, 24 hours, 24 hours, the student learn Islam, traditional Islamic knowledge in pesantren, full time. So 24-hour studying life, studying knowledge, studying life skill, studying spiritual touch, studying how to be a good people. So in traditional pesantren, full time is very essential. And then traditional leadership. In pesantrens, leadership is very traditional. So I say traditional because the tradition the pesantren is a figure. The central figure in pesantren leads pesantren as showing of the leadership. The competency of leadership will be shown in pesantren itself. So pesantren is leadership or kiais. The kiais is pesantren. So pesantren could express. Pesantren will be expressed by the kiais competency, kiais knowledge, kiais preferences, and kiais tendency of politic, economy, social, and of course the denomination. This is the traditional. So first in rural, the second traditional Islamic knowledge, and the third must be boarding at school, full time 24 hour, and the leadership must be traditional. So the genetic of family will determine the people. Will determine the heredity of family will ensure the next generation of pesantren itself. And the second one is modern pesantren or khalafiyah or pesantren khalaf. Pesantren khalaf or traditional or modern pesantren is the traditional Islamic knowledge and modern knowledge. This is the integration between traditional Islamic knowledge from yellow books or kutubut turat, and the modern knowledge like mathematics, science, computer, technology. And then the modern pesantren integrate both traditional and modern knowledge. So it is very, very good for reaching the hereafter and the world's goals. And the second one in modern pesantren must be boarding school, and then the boarding, because the boarding is the main essential factors for pesantren. Modern style of management, not leadership, not traditional leadership, not genetic, not family, not heredity. It must be a system, the modern system. So in Khalaf pesantren or modern pesantren, the style management is very modern. Must be kiais as the figure, must be financial board, must be secretary, must be foundation, and so on and so forth. And the location, the most modern pesantren must be in urban centers, in the center of Jakarta, Bandung, Surabaya, Malang, and so on and so forth. And they integrate the both knowledge, modern and traditional knowledge, and it must be effective. It must be needed by the people, by the cities people. Well, so there are many terminologies: the comparative pesantren, madrasa, and sekolah. In madrasa in Indonesian context is the product of kiais in pesantren. At that time, in colonial times, Kiai saw that many pesantren is left behind by colonial government. So the Kiais create the school system adapted by Netherlands government. It means school, and this school is adopted by pesantren. So classical method is redesigned from pesantren. As we know that pesantren doesn't have the classical, that doesn't have the class system management, and madrasa adapt the school becoming a classical system, namely madrasa. But madrasa is very modern, and madrasa must be combination of religious and non-religious, but the less is not boarding school. So madrasa has no boarding school. Madrasa not 24 hour. It differs with pesantren. Pesantren 24-hour study, but madrasa is in regular learning time in, for example, Indonesia, 7 to 8 hour per days. And madrasa is a generic term for Islamic school. Yeah, generic term for Islamic school. Islamic school is madrasa. Madrasa means the school that has or basically in Islamic values. And madrasa is more popularly used in Singapore and Philippines. So there are many madrasa in Singapore and Philippines, especially for Islamic thought. So madrasa is very popular in Singapore and Philippines, and of course in Indonesia. But in Indonesia, it's different with school. School is very the general education, and madrasa is Islamic education. So it's very different. And so what is sekolah or school? Sekolah is divided into two categories. It depends on status. School must be private or swasta, and the law umbrella is foundation. Every school must be below on the foundation. And public mean negeri, or in United States, namely not public but state. For example, state school or not public school. But in English or in Australia, namely public school. Public mean owned by government. The school mostly modern subject like mathematics, sociology, biology, chemistry, and so on and so forth. School is very, very world inside, not hereafter. But in Indonesia, because Indonesia is the Pancasila countries, Indonesia is not religious countries or it's not secular countries, but Pancasila's countries that need religious becomes the subject academic in school. So not only modern subject, not only general education, but also religious education. Weekly 2-hour obligatory religious subject. This is This is the school in Indonesia that religious subject is obligation, must be taught to the school for 2 hour per weeks. 2 hour per week. So it is school in this is the comparative studies among school, madrasa, and pesantren. So what is the other related terms or names regarding pesantren? We have pondok, or we call pondok pesantrens or travelers in. Pondok means dormitory, boarding. So pondok is the part of Indonesia, pondok pesantren, pondok. But particularly in Malaysia and Cambodia, in Malaysia or Cambodia, say pondok. Pondok means the traveler inns or dormitory or motel or hotel, but it's for education. It's for education, not for others. So in Indonesia, it could be integrated pondok and pesantrens to becomes pondok pesantren. Pondok pesantren mean pesantren. Pondok mean pondok pesantren. So we call pondok for pondok pesantren or pesantren only for pondok pesantren. Or in Sumatra, we call surau. So pesantren in Java tradition, but today is the popular name for Indonesian generally, but particularly pesantren in Sumatra, namely surau or daya in Aceh or in other Sumatra. So this is the terminologies of pesantren. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And the next meeting, we would like to tell you about the history of pesantren. Thank you very much for your attention. And then, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.